Hi everyone. This is a very important video for me to make um, because it's detailing what I've been going through for the past 3 months regarding my health. Um, Apologize if I seem very nervous because I've never done anything like this or recorded myself like this ever, or in such a serious way. Um, but basically, I've been going through some very serious health issues for the past 3 months. I'd like to disclose, like to try to explain in detail for everyone watching, because it just seems very unprecedented to my life. I never had health issues like this continue as consistent ever. Um, I don't feel like a healthy person anymore. I feel like I know the difference between being healthy and having a cold or flu or sickness, or something, a pain that's sharp or anything like that. But now, I know the difference between actually being healthy and sick versus having malaise and illness, or the sense of being ill, and trying to go through life. And so I also would like to explain directly out front, or say that it will be very naive and imbecilic of me to say that everything that I'm going through right now is there's no there wouldn't be any possibility. Sorry. It would be very naive and imbecilic of me to deny that um, that this is possibly the result of vaccine injury. Um, because anybody can say anything, and it's not your responsibility as a viewer to believe every word that I say. You don't have to, but I want to make it my responsibility to try, at least to the best of my ability, to detail and explain what I've been going through for the past few months, and um, because of what I've been experiencing since I was vaccinated. Um, I had my last dose, second dose, booster dose, or whatever, of Pfizer vaccine in August 20th. And practically exactly a month later, and around September 20th, my first specific symptom that I can remember or detail, like as an actual symptom that I've never experienced before, is having near faintness. So what does that mean? That basically means that you're trying to get ready in the morning. You're in the restroom. You feel like you're just trying to go through your morning routine, whatever. And all of a sudden, I started feeling kind of like my heart kind of like beating harder and faster. I noticed I was having labored breathing, and that's kind of a thing that I find interesting, because regarding coronavirus and everything, that all the symptoms that it goes through, you have shortness of breath and things like that. But I digress. And so trying to it was harder to try to do my morning routine. I was obviously standing, and and so I was kind of like bracing myself against the sink, um, trying to continue, trying to finish what I'm doing. But it wasn't until I tried to get out of the restroom, or walked out the restroom into the kitchen, where I felt like my limbs were getting weaker and weaker. Unfortunately, my mom is basically there, and I started saying that I wasn't feeling good. And so she had helped me to sit down to the kitchen table, where I had to sit down, and she gave me juice and something sweet, and that did help me not faint. Basically, when it comes to near faintness, you feel very weak, lightheaded. Your heart's palpitating, it gets harder and harder to breathe. Kind of, you feel like you're kind of like trying to, you're like loopy. You're just trying to, trying to stay awake, or trying to, you feel like you're not really, fully in control sometimes. And so that was the first episode of near faintness, and that would happen multiple times. The next few days, worse would be the worst kind of moments where it would happen, and I find very very interesting is that when I'm trying to sleep, um, even before you're consciously laying down, and you're trying to actually fall asleep, you feel sleepy, or it's late at night, and then even before you're still conscious, and for me, I'm still conscious, and even before you try to go to a deeper state of sleep, all of a sudden your body starts tremoring, starts shaking, your heart starts palpitating, so it feels stronger. Also, breathing, you notice your breathing become labored, like it's not as easy as it was to breathe before you had that happen to you. Um, Also, you're just and that time, especially when that type of like weird night attacks would happen. That's what I call them. Um, the first times that it would happen, you would basically, if I didn't run out of my bed to get something sugary to drink or eat, I probably would have just fainted. Because your body feels extremely weak. You do sense your sense of feeling in your limbs, and so obviously having adrenaline pumping through my body at that time, which would explain all the palpitations and the um, the breathing issues. If I didn't run out and use that energy to get something to drink, or instinctively something sweet like fruit to help keep me from fainting, then I would have fainted in my bed. Luckily, I never had an issue where I actually fainted. This near faintness, where I feel like if I didn't do anything to help my body, then I would probably faint. And ironically, before you're trying to sleep, and so that actually happens multiple times. Sometimes I still get those night attacks. Not where I faint anymore. I believe my body, since those fainting episodes, those happened basically in September and early October. My body got used to that type of shock, I guess. So I don't have that extreme, reaction to where you would feel like you're fainting. Um, and so that was the major first symptom amongst many other bizarre symptoms that I've experienced, where I felt handicapped, where I felt like, understanding like what I was going through was unprecedented, was, impairing to my life, the quality of my life, because it would, pretty much every day there would be an assortment of different symptoms I'll be going through, in varying degrees, trying to, try to have energy, try to be motivated, try to do things that you do on a daily basis, and you just have no energy. Your energy at that point is trying to, your brain's trying to make sure that, hey, I'm not getting, I hope I'm not getting worse. I hope I'm not getting in a worse state where, I literally would have to have help or have to go to the hospital. And, I've been to, since, late September, going through urgent care, ER visits, uh, office appointments, doctor's appointments, uh, with blood testing. I recently had my first X-ray done on my spine, um, and with that, so I've been through a lot every day for around 3 months now. It's almost going to be the 20th, which would be 3 months since September. Um, and so, I just want to make sure that I'm disclosing all the information I can. And this is kind of like an overview. I want this to be like an overview from when my symptoms first started, how it's affecting my body and my body in different ways, to how any answers. I've gotten no actual answers to what I've been going through. I was diagnosed at the ER with anxiety because They mentioned my blood tests, and they took a chest X-ray for my heart, I suppose, and they found nothing abnormal. And so now that last month was actually like a cardiology month for me, which um, I still have no answers regarding what I've been going through with my hands and feet neuropathy. Um, I have blue, purple, dark purple nails that get worse with coldness. Um, that I never had normally before. It's cutting off the circulation in my arms and my feet, of course, my hands too. And um, basically, like right now, that's what majorly what my symptoms are going through. It's kind of like issues with my hands and feet. I'm hoping to get through mail a referral to a neurologist. Um, so that's kind of like my next stage, going to neurologist, cardiologist. It's nothing abnormal in my heart, but I'm still going. And I experienced hard pains, minor heart pains, not sharp like I was being stabbed with a knife in my heart, but this random uncomfortable pains. I have to say, like, I've been going through like continual back pain. Where in my mid back, in my shoulder, and it shifts lately as towards the middle of my spine. So it felt more like a deep set like infection pain. So like it's a very uncomfortable. It's not sharp, but it's like a deep, uncomfortable, uh, you know, infection. So when something's infected, it's just swollen. So I was going through basically a swollen back, and my muscles would get swollen too. My neck and my spine, you know, muscles were always felt extremely tense. If I be looking in the medicine cabinet in my restroom, if I'm looking at a certain direction for too long, my left side of my neck, if I'm looking this way, will be very cramped, which I never had issues before. I never had these type of I'm a very healthy individual, mid 20s, and just going through unprecedented symptoms, um, which I'll further explain probably in another video, in much more bigger detail. And so yeah, so going through urgent care, at that point, that's when I first had my first blood pressure, recordings taken, and my blood pressure was 155 systolic, and then 112 diastolic, and I've never had issues with. Right now, my blood pressure is back to normal, but obviously something was wrong with how my body was interpreting, um, how to, heart pumping and circulation, because my heart rate was consistently above or around 120, and late when it was checked, and then at the ER, and then also um, never had issues with high blood pressure like that, where it was so consistent. So you feel ill. You generally feel ill, knowing that I was healthy before, and that I never had issues like that to such a degree where I had to feel like I had to go. I couldn't. I could taking a shower, doing laundry. This being at home. You're a state of exhaustion and energy that I never consistently had before, where literally you're expending all your energy. Your brain and your heart aren't connecting right, and you're just you can and people say you can do breathing exercises. People I've talked to, people, and they friends that I know through social media, that they're you just do breathing exercises, it'll help. But when you have actual tachycardia, you're not having this normal anxiety, yet that doesn't help. You can do for an hour, take as slow as breaths in and out as you want. That's not gonna do anything. um you just have to kind of like wait for it, or hope that it happens. And I'll be going through the entire day just being in a state of constant tachycardia, and that's extremely bad for the circulation in your body, if your heart doesn't rest. And that's one of the things I noticed, that having night attacks. I would literally only sleep every other day. So your body literally has no chance to go into any deeper sleep. You would not, you be running on adrenaline, because those attacks will happen multiple times a night. Um, and so it would literally you wake your body up. You cannot, you can't go to sleep. And so it's not like I'm waking in the middle of my sleep to these kind of symptoms. It's more like, um, even before I try to actually, consciously go to sleep, I'm laying down, having my eyes closed. I'm still awake, but my body just reactivates, and it just goes into this kind of like weird state of like, I don't know, adrenaline. And then, you're forced to deal with that the rest of the day. And when that would happen, so every other day, that's when obviously I have my worst blood pressure readings, where I have my worst heart ratings, consistently high. The highest I seen um, my heart rate while resting would have been 134. This resting heartbeat. There's absolutely no reason, being a healthy individual. Ever since, I would say, ever since the pandemic, I've been working at home, being more sedentary. So that could absolutely be a factor compared to if I was working in retail and walking, running, doing dancing. I used to dance all the time before the pandemic as well. So it's unprecedented in my life, and bizarre. And I know the difference between being healthy and having all these symptoms consistently. It's debilitating, and worrisome. I never, I wouldn't go to the extent saying that what I was going through was so severe that I felt like I was about to die. I just feel like, being in that state of exhaustion, and I felt like my quality of life was, and luckily I'm getting better at this moment. My quality of life was deteriorating, um, because of whatever occurred to me a month after getting, having my last vaccine dose. And the reason why I pinpoint it to being, vaccine injury, in my opinion, is because of seeing what others on social media have mentioned regarding their heart issues, regarding nervous issues specifically, which I think is what I'm going through. Um, okay, sorry, I had to restart the video. And I apologize if there's noise. I live in noises neighborhood in Canyon Lake. So there's always constant distractions and noises from every direction in every neighbor, which is very annoying. But besides that, sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. But um, but yeah, I never had any health issues like this. And I also want to mention that regarding my vaccination history, the last vaccine I've had before the Pfizer vaccine was over 10 years ago. Um, and it was a booster for diphtheria, and I believe I got tetanus or something like that. So this is a typical, you take that when you're in your teens, right? I'm in my mid 20s now, and I live literally never taken, uh, as an adult, a flu vaccine, a seasonal flu vaccine. Never had the flu, that I'm aware of. Never, maybe a cold, regular cold here or there, but I never had, the propensity to actually get a flu vaccine. Um, I don't know if that. I wonder if that was ever tested. After all, this is an mRNA experimental vaccine for emergency authorization. That is the Pfizer. That is Moderna. Those types of vaccines are authorized for emergency use with mRNA, and I don't know if that affected my body because of that. There's plenty of um, things you can read online. There's plenty of videos even on YouTube that you can look up. People having discussions regarding their experiences with the vaccine injury, and I think from what I've seen, it's either affecting the nervous system, It's either affecting the heart directly, which is causing inflammation like myocarditis, pericarditis. People like Kyle Warner was a healthy athlete, is a healthy athlete. But ever since he took the Pfizer vaccine, which I have also taken, he experienced more severe symptoms regarding his heart. Fortunately, I was with a cardiologist last month, and the results said that nothing was abnormal with my heart. They took an ultrasound, so hopefully that means I have no actual damage to my heart, and so if I did, that would probably be an indication I had inflammation directly with my heart. Nonetheless, what I was going through was not as severe as Kyle Warner's. Especially him being a healthy athlete with heart rate under 60 beats per minute, and now having experienced basically heart attacks where his heart rate went up to 180, which is absolutely insane, which is it should never even be possible for such a healthy person. And clearly, what he's going through and other severe symptoms that he explains on his own accord that you can look up. Kyle Warner vaccine injury. He inspired me to do this type of video, and he was a big influence in me. Kind of disclosing what I'm going through right now. I'm very fortunate to not be in that type of severe state where you could easily have a heart attack and die from. But nonetheless, I know the difference between feeling healthy and in having now not feeling healthy, having malaise, illness, having my brain being sometimes extremely loopy, headaches, lightheadedness that I've never had to any extent before that I'm aware of. Just having now bizarre back pains I've had, and likely being sedentary. I had low vitamin D because being sedentary and being inside my house because of the pandemic and everything, and trying to work from home. So trying to go through all these things, and my doctor. This was before I ever had. This was in July, so before I ever had my vaccine doses, whatever. She I had blood taken because I was going to checking up, especially for my back pain. And it was lower back pain, and my back pain has shifted different places for the past 3 months, which I find interesting. But I digress. But she mentioned that I had the lowest vitamin D, and that she's ever seen. It was like 8 nanograms. I think that's how they measure it. So being stuck inside the house, and trying to work from home, that obviously doesn't help that. I'm never going out of my way to just go out, especially during the day. And I had car issues as well, but I digress. So that in combination, having low vitamin D, there are people, doctors that report upon vitamin D levels that greatly affects your immune system, and obviously it was affecting my bones at the time, for sure. And so, but it affects your immune system, and a lot of people that have low vitamin D levels, turns out, they have the worst symptoms of COVID. They have the worst symptoms of going through illness and flu, where it impacts their body to greater extent than somebody who has high vitamin D levels, healthy vitamin D levels, don't. So having the vaccine that would prevent you from being, infected or being, symptomatic with COVID at least, you would think that, okay, well, is there a correlation if people who have low vitamin D levels before and at the time that they were taking the vaccine, would they have the, likely higher injury rate, the adverse effect from the vaccine? In minorities, have darker skin, right? Darker skin makes it harder for your body to produce vitamin D through sunlight, because obviously you be exposed to sunlight, your family, your history, your ancestry will be exposed to sunlight. So there's your body creates melanin to help prevent you from being injured by the sun's rays. So I'm Latino, and I have apparently the lowest vitamin D levels that my clinicians ever seen, which was shocking to hear. I didn't feel like I was dying, because if you have 8 nanograms, you're practically that's almost 0 nanograms. That's almost like you're dead, right? Um, so either I have malabsorption for vitamin D, or like I was really that severe vitamin D deficient, which is crazy to me. But no, I digress. But having that in combination with the vaccine, could that resulted in having more adverse effects? That's what I want to ask. That's what I want to understand. And clearly, people who are minorities have the highest mortality rates because of COVID, because of comorbidities, morbidities, excuse me. And when you have such low vitamin D levels, you're considering immunocompromised. That's really what it is. Your body's not operating, not just in the bones, but in various, your heart, brain, and everything like that. Immune system. So I would say that could be a precursor to having such effects I was going through a month later. And having 10 years I was fine, never having going through flu, never going through severe direct sickness. I mean, I would suppose the most sick I've ever I know I've ever been, but like in recent years, it was 2017, I got I believe food poisoning right around November, so of that year. So besides that, I don't have experiences with actual a flu. Maybe I had maybe in 2018 I had an issue with my sinus and my congestion, but that was pretty much it. That's not really, to me, that's not being ill. That's just going through a minor sickness, but you're healthy, which I was. But now going through what I'm going through, I know the difference between being healthy and being ill, and especially when it's affecting your brain, where like I mentioned before, you feel loopy. Especially for me right now, what I'm going through is that when I eat a meal, and this could be correlated. I mean, I check my glucose levels and they're completely normal every time. But it's correlated to having such extreme fatigue after I eat. Maybe because there's a shift of blood circulation to my core. That's could be it's taking away from my brain to my core body. And like I said, I have issues where I have blue fingernails. Why? I never had that before, and now I had an issue where like I was mentioning, I had an infection. I felt like I had an infection in the middle, deep in the middle of my spine, my lower spine. And at that time, my body is shaking, is doing normal things, like intention tremor, like your muscles are like weak or something like that, bizarre. And having strong pains of numbness and tingling, and feeling like sometimes I feel like there's like a tightness in my wrists, in my arm, in my legs, in my feet, and it's just like there's nothing I can do about it. And and then unfortunately, because I haven't been most I've been diagnosed was like anxiety by the ER. And mentioning what I mentioned to my doctor, our doctors, I have no answers. There's no further diagnosis that actually explains the severity of what I'm going through. This is I don't have issues with anxiety beforehand. I don't feel petrified when I have night attacks that I'm mentioning. I just feel it's more of a nuisance than anything. Obviously, before when it first started, you feel like you almost feel like you're about to faint. So obviously that's scary, and that makes you worry, because obviously there's something wrong with your body. That, especially if you never experienced that before, it's not a routine thing at all. Fortunately, I don't have light faintness like I was experiencing, in late September, early October. That's when those episodes would happen. So got those weird shakiness attacks, feeling it feels like there's like electricity running through your body. It feels like you're being buzzed. It's not, for me, when that happens, it's not like a complete like burning sensation in your entire body, because that'd be extremely painful. That's true. What I've read, that's true neuropathic pain. And then it's further in this muscle soreness, or prickling or sharp pain. But numbness is unusual. I'm not. It's not like I'm forcing my body to fall asleep when I'm awake. I'm not. I'm not laying on my arms and my feet to experience that. And even then, when if that would happen, if I'm laying down, I know sometimes I'll wake up, experience that because I was literally just laying on my arm. Um, Usually, in previous times it'll take like a minute to come back to life. Like you can move your fingers, but if that recently happens to me, now it takes like 5 minutes, 5 minutes to actually like regain full control, of even just moving your fingers if that happens to me. So something's clearly wrong with my circulatory system. Something's clearly wrong with my nervous system. Where it's kind it feel and then the scariest part for me obviously is knowing that your body is like, or feeling at the very least like your body's deteriorating. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can actually stop that from happening until it stops. You actually feel healthier. If you feel continually ill, you're just like stuck in that state of decreased you know um you know life quality or whatever. And so that's obviously a debilitating thought in the back of my head. Yeah, that especially in October, which I had the worst symptoms overall, I would say. Most consistently every day, every other day, could not sleep, and that makes you crazy. And maybe that itself causes brain damage and heart damage, but so far I have to see. I'm planning to see a neurologist to see what's going on. It could be I'm having sclerosis. I'm having weird issues with my brainstem. Actually, I actually had an acquaintance, a friend, who actually does went to see him, and he does biomagnetism, and basically he's able to find out what's wrong with my body. And I had he was gracious enough to let me have like a consultation with him in his very apartment, and he had everything set up, and it showed that like through magnets or anything like that, the way that he was able to understand what was going wrong of my body. Something was wrong with my brainstem, my brain. And it's likely due to COVID injury, vaccine injury, post COVID symptoms in general, probably. Because a lot of my experiences could be attributed to having long lasting viral infection, um, viral illness in brain and heart and things like that. It causes a lot of the symptoms too. So it's kind of like I took this vaccine to prevent me from getting COVID, but it turns out like I'm having issues, like literally symptoms of long standing COVID, fatigue, brain fog, can't focus. You feel loopy. Especially after I eat. Shift of blood flow. I don't know, postprandial, whatever you can imagine. Um, it just it gets debilitating you, and obviously it takes away your energy. I've lost hair, considerable amounts of my hair as well. Um, and I've lost weight. I think I mentioned this, but at least 5 pounds of weight specifically out of the blue. Quick. Going through what I'm going through, expending all my energy when my heart's pumping, and there's nothing I can stop it until hopefully the next day. Um, so having that constant kind of like sensation that something's wrong with your body, it's draining. It's truly that's malaise, that's illness, and I've never experienced that before in my life. So going through that is extreme. And so as an overview, I want this to be an overview. I was healthy, then I was not after this vaccine injury. Well, I nobody's classified as a vaccine injury, and doctors can literally lose their jobs because of connotating vaccine injury to a patient, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's and also I to explain how censored and how people believe that vaccine injury would be impossible or it's extremely rare. Well, it turns out, if you're having more and more boosters with these vaccines, well, that guess what? That makes it more and more likely. And now more and more people are coming out with neurological issues, very more severe issues than what I'm going through that are actually directly life threatening, paralysis, having heart attacks, dying of blood clots. If you do the research and try to help yourself, try to go through and see what's going on, having an open mind, these are always a possibility. Um, so so yeah, and as far as right now, my main symptoms are trying to get rid of this pins and needles, numbness, and this fatigue. So in my brain, and especially after I eat a big meal, I just literally feel like extremely lightheaded, like I'm about to pass out after I eat. I've experienced that before, but never to this extent. Um, it looks like if I had like hypoglycemia, reactive hypoglycemia, but as far as my mom has a glucometer, and so I was able to use it, and so far they always seem normal after having eaten, and so it's kind of I still have no definitive answers from anywhere. Hopefully, with neurologists, they're able to see something's happening with my body and help me correspondingly, because I've been, I've been diagnosed with anxiety, but I've been, they gave they gave me hyproxazine as well in October, and that made me worse. All it did it was make me feel drunk, and also that's not good for a rapid heartbeat, which I was going through, and it's actually kind of disappointing going through doctors, because I remember my first post ER um, doctor visit with my actual clinician. Uh, they would refuse to actually refer me to a cardiologist. Instead, they want to refer me to a psychiatrist, a psychologist. Thinking that this is completely stemming from anxiety. Um, and it's kind of unfair, because I'm like, well, if I'm going through such ridiculous heart issues that I never went through in my life, it's kind of, it would be important to recommend you to cardiologist. So I had to convince her by literally like calling them and sharing, my blood pressure readings. I'll go through the CVS, have pictures, and I time stamped them too, going through what I'm going through, every other day. That I would go through CVS and have extremely high blood pressure readings. My highest blood pressure reading was 160 systolic, and I believe in the 110s for diastolic. And so it's just, that doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. I never had issues with blood pressure, having hardness of breathing, feeling like you're not there, but, lightheadedness, headaches like that, to such an extent that it's debilitating, drains your energy. You do not have you if you try to do, if I try to get out of the shower, I just feel completely exhausted. If I try to do laundry, I feel completely exhausted, when you wouldn't have, you'd be up for 24 hours or more. Your body literally prevents you from sleeping. Something's wrong with the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. That's what I believe that I'm going through. I want to have a neurologist to be able to determine that, obviously, but the possibilities and the chances of this happening out of the blue, out of 10 years of not being vaccinated, now being vaccinated with the COVID vaccine, Pfizer vaccine, it's pretty ridiculous to me. And I don't want anybody to go through that. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going through such ridiculous symptoms after being vaccinated. That they don't deserve that. There needs to be full disclosure of the risks of going through vaccines, especially if it's an experimental mRNA vaccine that is causing around the world, and what's going through and what's being censored through social medias. I find it absolutely ridiculous. It's asinine. There should be a discussion when there should be risks, when there's risks involved, and there should always be a clarity and an understanding that this can happen to you, and even though it may be rare, that may be unusual. and it could be due to comorbidities and obviously other health issues. That this it's not like the more boosters someone could take, it's possible that they can have more adverse effects, and that's what's been going through Pfizer's and Pfizer and these obviously pharmaceutical companies. Take more boosters because there's more variants coming. Well, in my opinion, coronavirus, the response to coronavirus has not been justified. From lockdown to how governments, especially in Australia, are treating COVID. People who haven't been vaccinated or refuse the option to be vaccinated as second-class citizens, as people that deserve to be, what's the word? Insulted, to be cast aside, to be put into literally like detention centers just because they have the chance of spreading a virus that is getting weaker, that is being more transmissible, but it is not as severe as something like an Ebola pandemic, an airborne Ebola pandemic, or actual diseases that kill way more people, way more quickly, way more severely in all types of age ranges. So it's kind of like you're kind of like over justifying the response to a pandemic in which in the history of the pandemic, the viral pandemics of the world, those viral pandemics were much more severe and deadly to all types of age ranges, not just the elderly, not just immunocompromised. That's my opinion on the response to COVID, response to lockdowns, because now trillions and trillions of dollars have been spent to try to justify protecting ourselves from this COVID pandemic, and I believe it's causing much more harm than it is helping people in the long run. Now, that's obviously not to deny or not to deflate the fact that COVID is real. The COVID has killed people, millions of people, but in the span, compared to the history of pandemics in the world, it's not justified, economically, mentally, physically, to what people have to go through to such ridiculous extent through this pandemic, and it's not justified when you have more variants that are less dangerous, like Omicron. But the response to vaccine passports, which is ridiculous, because if the vaccinated are getting infected just as much as the unvaccinated, and well, in a proportionate amount to having immune escape to new variants of COVID. Well, guess what? Vaccine passports aren't going to save you. Aren't going to save anyone. And if we expect this virus to mutate more and more, then why are we placing such importance on such arbitrary and asinine kind of precautions when if you want to be treated as a normal person whenever you're going out in public, then if you have to have a vaccine card or a passport to show that you're normal, then meanwhile you can still be transmitting COVID variants. It's asinine. It's redundant. It's not necessary, and it causes too much strain on economy. Causes too much strain on mental mental faculties, on people who are going through mental issues. If they have an issue being stuck in their house, if they have an issue having no interaction with other people, it's kind of like I don't believe it's actually justified. You may think it's justified, but it's actually not when it comes to the severity and the history of what's going on between country and country, between virus and virus. It's overblown, and it's almost sinister to the point that I think that it's especially with the fact that you're having more and more adverse effects, it's just ridiculous. But besides that, at this point right now, I do feel like my symptoms are overall not as extreme as they were in October, and I'm doing things to help my body, supplementing myself. I started intermittent fasting, and that I believe that's actually helping my body since this month, the beginning of December. that it's actually been helping how I feel, helping my issues with my nerves, and um, that I don't have malaise, in my brain, or loopiness, or just feeling like I can't that I can't function normally doing normal tasks I would do every day. So that's a positive end to this. That this was kind of a rant video here. This segment was a little bit of a rant because I feel like it's I don't. It's hard to trust when you have no answers, when you're refused to be getting answers, and preventing people from talking openly, being censored. And if anybody watches this, and like I said early in the beginning, of my first video, it's not your responsibility to believe what I'm saying. To believe the conclusions that I'm going through. Um, but it's my responsibility to at least disclose what I'm going through in my experience and my opinions. These are opinions, but these are symptoms that I can't deny firsthand. These are firsthand kind of symptoms I've been going through for the last 3 months. So that's something I want to bring forward to everybody watching this, anybody hearing, anybody that's actually managed to pay attention. If you wanted to comment or anything like that, and people like Kyle Warner, I'm sure people online that talk about vaccine and controversial issues with the vaccine with COVID. I hope that you understand that you can send anything you want towards me, but that doesn't affect what I've experienced firsthand. So with that, I hope you guys are well. If you are experiencing symptoms like I mentioned, you think that you're going through neurological issues, heart issues, your body feels different, don't deny it. Think of all the options. Try to get help. Try to talk to as much people as you can as well. Try to see what other people are saying and make from both sides of the coin and make your conclusions, because that's the best way to conversate and debate with others in a meaningful ways, to understand, okay, what are both sides saying and how can we bring to a conclusion which makes sense for both sides. What is someone going through, why are they going through this? And so I'm in the process of discovering that for myself. I'm trying to go through doctor. Apparently my heart ultrasound results, nothing's abnormal, so which to me means that I have no actual damage to my heart. So what else is causing such neurological issues, stiffness of muscles, so many other symptoms that I plan to actually go through in a separate video, directly one by one. I've made a list of actual symptoms that I'm going through, and that way I can explain them consequentially and in an actual intelligent manner, rather than just having an overview like this, which is kind of like succinct and all over the place, I think. So yeah, besides that, just be well, be safe, be careful. If you feel like you need a mask, wear a mask. If you feel like you need to be vaccinated. But if you ever experienced what I'm going through, well, there needs to be a discussion. So yeah, thank you so much for watching.